Markets are relentless. The investment process is tested every day, and we require a lot of grit to handle the volatility.
What got you interested in finance? Your education, you started off in engineering. And so engineering and finance, I find often go together. There's tons of engineers in finance, but what sparked your interest? Did you have a family member that was in it? Did you get inspired by media?
So I think my father was a sort of a big influence on me. He was an avid reader and an investor. So growing up, our house was full of business magazines and magazines related to the equity markets. So business and companies fascinated me at a very, very early age. It was also a constant dinner table conversation and a party conversation at our home. Um, but India in the 90s was very different from today. I was very good at school, very good in education. So the standard path for good students would be either to be an engineer or a doctor. So as I got into high school, I selected science as my major. However, there were two early indicators for me. One was in high school, even though I took science major and my focus was math and science, I did choose economics as one of my subjects. And this was very, very rare. Almost, about only about 2% of the science students would select economics also. And I did top my class in that subject and I loved it then. Similarly, again, when I took engineering and I selected computer science, we again both had economics and finance as subjects, which I did very, very well and thoroughly enjoyed. So I think those are sort of the early indicators for me that sort of uh, sparked my interest in finance.
Yeah, I find that I'm just trying to think back to when I took, so I did a business degree, and I'm trying to think if there were any really science students in my economics classes, because economics, especially at the first year level, is a huge class. There's hundreds and hundreds of students, but I think I didn't really know. I don't even know if I could name you one person that at least that was a friend of mine or within my circle that was from a science background. It's not necessarily a popular elective to take because it can be challenging, but that's a great indicator, like that you're going to be interested in finance.
Yeah. And so what happened was after I graduated, I joined Infosys, which was one of the premier IT companies in India at that point in time.
Mhm.
I was literally the first person in my entire graduating class, or in fact grade, to get an offer at Infosys. And there I focused a lot on building scalable systems, working a lot with data. And while I enjoyed system development, I think I continued reading business magazines and continued being fascinated by business.
And so that actually leads me to then, because right after Infosys, you decided that you were going to go and pursue a master's degree. So
Yeah,
after
that's
getting
true.
that job that seems very competitive already and hard to get at Infosys, after 2 years, what made you decide to go and leave that job and pursue a master's degree?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of triggers. That is also, when I started working, was I started investing. Finally, I had some money to invest, and a, a couple of things happened. One, my initial investments did not do well. I fell in a classic value trap where I invested in companies that looked good but had a lot of debt. So I missed a lot of parameters. So that's my first trigger. I realized I need to have a systematic knowledge and understanding on investing. But second, also, I realized that a lot of my investments were a hit or miss because I was not doing it full time. And I realized that I needed to have a process around it, which made me understand the importance of making the strategy systematic. Uh, so, when I came across the Masters of Finance course that gave me an opportunity to combine my interest with my engineering and quant background, I just jumped at the opportunity.
And it's great to see how it seems like a lot of your career motivations come from deep personal interest, and it's mashing really well all of the education that you have. Whereas, I mean, computer science is always an excellent degree. It's incredibly employable. It's very technical, but especially when you obtain that degree, that's like perfect timing for that to collide with an interest in finance. Um, was When you considered doing your master's degree, did you specifically want to do it abroad? Had you gone abroad prior to?
No, that was not really, not really. That was the first time I went to the US. I think it was more of the curriculum there. The financial engineering curriculum was not really available. Definitely, it was not available in India at that point in time, and even across Asia, it was very few places. US has always been a pioneer in investing. I got an opportunity to at the university in Chicago, which had the Chicago Board of Trade, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, a lot of quantitative trading CTAs around there, and so it was just a very attractive opportunity uh, to move to the US and study there.
And how did you like Chicago when you first landed in the city? I've been there recently. I loved it. I thought the food was really good.
I landed in the summer, best city ever. The views did change slightly as winter came in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but
Very, very cold.
it's so awful there in the winter. It's so cold.
But it's a beautiful city. I think it's a perfect balance of life in terms of uh, in the quality of life relative to some of the other larger cities. So I loved it, and I had a great time when I was there.
And when you started your master's degree in finance, I'm curious, how did your technical background in computer science, did you find that um, helped shape the way that you approached finance early on? Did you find your perspectives to be different than other colleagues? Because I find that oftentimes, particularly when you do a master's degree and you have students that come in from very diverse educational backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, when you're all looking at either like the same case study or the same type, whatever problem it is, it's always really interesting to me how people from just different educational and cultural backgrounds can bring so very many different perspectives. I'll often find someone brings up a question that I never even thought of. Did you find that with your technical background in computer science and your work background that you approach problems or you approach finance in a different way?
Yes, absolutely. I think it helped me in a huge way. Due to my technical background, I was comfortable in programming, data management, statistics, math, and it just made allowed me to come up the learning curve very fast. It also allowed me to do things that were slightly different. So literally, in the first month that I was in Chicago, I did unannounced at a trend following hedge fund, uh, and just talking to them about my background, my technical skills, and just offering them to do an internship with them, unpaid, just offering them to help in any way I can. And gladly they accepted, and they allowed me to be with quant researchers and traders all day. And that experience was immensely helpful. So when I look at that experience early on, along with my technical background, I think it just allowed me to build a very strong foundation. In fact, I was one of the first ones in my master's class to get an opportunity to work with a hedge fund.
And I was gonna, it's off that same topic, but looking back at that, how was that first experience working in the finance scene in Chicago?
It was amazing. I loved every moment of it. In fact, for over a year, I had a grueling schedule. I would be at the office 7:30 a.m. working with the traders and the researchers all day, go for evening classes, study at nights, and next day again in the morning I'm back there, and I just enjoyed every minute of it. The excitement of being on the trading floors right next to the Chicago Board of Trade, in the heart of the city, the energy, it was just very exciting.
Can you imagine doing that during a remote working environment? I always find that the idea of doing that like in 2020 would have been so crazy.
Yes, and the amount of learning that is there just around being around so many bright people, and just different viewpoints. It was just uh, that experience was very helpful.
Yeah, and I love the. I started my career in a trading floor, and it was. I guess at that point, it was the only environment that I knew, but I found so much value in learning from the people that I worked with just by virtue of sitting next to them all day long. And it's not like,
Yes.
they were sitting with a wall between us, like in an office or something. They were sitting literally, like an arm's length from you. And so whatever was going on in markets, whatever was going on in just the regular news, it was a point to be able to get different perspectives, to learn from someone that has done it for so many years. But I found that, there was a learning curve to that, like especially going from academics directly to a trading floor. It's one of the most unique, fun, exciting, I think, working environments that I've ever had the good fortune of being in. But it was really awkward because I was like, oh, it's so weird. Like someone is just kind of going to be there next to me all the time. Like we have to be so comfortable with each other. But for you, what did you find was the biggest learning curve, not only moving from like academics and then moving to a different country, but moving from a very technical background to financial markets?
I think is a big learning curve. Markets are relentless. The investment process is tested every day, and we require a lot of grit to handle the volatility, a lot of humility because we are wrong a lot, right? And a lot of adaptability to take decisions that are appropriate, uh, to sort of not have an ego, to understand where we went wrong so that we keep improving the process, and just being focused on critical thinking, introspection, and continuous improvement. So I think that's a big change from the technical world, because in the in the markets we are tested every single day.
And when after you finished your degree, your master's in finance, did you have a role that was already ready to go to right after you graduated, or did you have the internship while you were pursuing your degree and then you went there after?
No, so I did the internship for a few months, and then uh, right, then they I joined them pretty much, and I was with them for a couple of years.
Okay. Um, Tell us about that experience.
It's been amazing, right? So I worked in Chicago for a couple of years, then worked in New York with InvestCorp for a couple of
Mhm.
years. That entire experience has been very foundational. I started my career in 2005 with a trend following manager. Trend following strategies was actually going through a very difficult period due to subdued volatility. So it was a big learning curve. Similarly, I survived the uncertainty and disruptions of the great financial crisis in 2008, came out stronger of that. So I think all these crises that I experienced early in my career, in the mid 2000s, ending with the great financial crisis, there were a lot of lessons learned. And it sort of built the foundations. Some of the things that I took away and we follow even now is, focusing on uncorrelated alpha, having a big focus on risk management, position sizing, leverage management, managing idiosyncratic risk, understanding the importance of diversification, liquidity. I think all of these lessons, very, very critical lessons learned early on in my career, things that I carry on even till today.